Welcome back to Open Spaces, everybody. I'm glad that you are here today. We got a special guest that we're really excited about today.
Yes, we have Jason Mellard. He is a new friend and he has an incredible ministry that you're going to hear all about, but just an amazing story of walking through same-sex attraction. His father walked through same-sex attraction and they had very different paths. You're just going to love to hear this conversation.
At the very, hold on. We talk a lot, but like towards the end, he offers some very practical steps for those who are in the fight, in the struggle, that I think are some of the most practical things I would say that are so helpful.
Absolutely.
So you're going to stick around for that.
For me, I do not struggle with same-sex attraction, but I got so much out of what he was talking about in his story and what he offers just in even finding your voice. So this really is for anybody, but we are excited you're here. Welcome back to Open Spaces. Hey guys, welcome back to Open Spaces podcast. We are very excited about our guest today. We have with us Jason Mellard.
Yes.
Hello, Jason.
Hello.
Welcome.
We're so honored that you would be on our podcast. A few things that I just want to say off the top. We just kind of gave a little bit about who you are in the intro, but I do want to say Jason was somebody that when we released Open Spaces, you reached out to us, you messaged us, and then you ended up, you have a database of guys and just with your own ministry. And it's people like you that you sent our podcast out to people. You helped support us from the very beginning. As you know very well, like when you're stepping out in this faith endeavor and you're like, okay, I don't know how this is going to go. And then somehow God miraculously provides guys like you to help us. So this is just our thank you to
so
you.
So generous of you to do that.
Yes, that you would help support us in that way and talk about what we're trying to do and follow God in. So thank you for that.
Yes.
This is also, we've kind of gotten to know each other a little bit offline. But this is like our first time in person. And I just want to say that your hair is exactly as awesome as I thought it would be.
First things first.
First things first. Like, I was like, is it really that cool? And it really is. And it's like, so I'm already jealous of your hair and your look. So, okay, great. So
well done.
We're starting off, but let's dive into, before we jump, we have a lot of ways we want to go today, but I want to start off with just your ministry. You live in the Dallas area. I want to talk about your ministry for a minute and what you do and what you're working on. So would you share with our people?
The most passionate idea that I have is I am so tired of same-sex attraction, telling people who they are and what's possible in their life. We've listened to the voice of our attractions, and that's not the voice we want to listen to, right? We want to listen to God. So the message I want to put out there is that you are not defined by your same-sex attractions. You're defined by the one who calls you his.
Awesome.
And that is the identity that he gives you. And when I started my podcast, I wanted to talk to that person that felt lost and alone due to his attractions and was struggling with who am I and where can I go?
Yes.
So that they can live a life of purpose and possibility.
Yes.
My dad was wondering that in his life. I have so many people, and I thought I'm just sick of it.
Yes.
I'm sick of
the
churches that are affirming, having the voice to say, oh, why don't you go and live this lifestyle? It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Or the culture, or Satan, or attractions. And so I wanted to be able to be a person that can create a community of men that would go through my group coaching program or one-on-one, or just have my resources that I have out there to be able to say, this is not bigger than you. And you've got this in life because God's got you.
Yes.
I wanted someone to be able to say that to me in life. You've got this. And part of that is believing that I have a voice. For me to step out in doing this, I had to unlock a different part of myself that I hadn't before. I had to say, I am somebody with a message that God has put on my heart. So I invite men of any age and stage in their life, anywhere from across the world, to reach out to me, either looking at my blog post or my masterclasses I have on my website, the podcast that I'm able to do, or to work with me one-on-one or in a group setting through 5 to 7 guys in a 12-week group coaching course. And that has been so fun to be able to meet so many guys from all over the place, whether they work with me or not, just to be able to have a conversation with them, to hear their story. Man, it has been an honor to be the person that many guys, even in their 70s, share their attractions with for the first time.
That's incredible.
Can you imagine that? 70 years old, and I've kept this to myself. And that's what Satan wants.
Right.
He wants this to
the
be
shame, the silence,
something that gets bigger in secrecy and feeling alone.
Yes.
So that's what I love, and I've been having a blast with it. It's been over the last few years.
Just the last few years is how long you've been doing this ministry?
November of 24 is when I
Okay.
feel like God gave me the idea to step out in this. I had led small groups with a ministry in Arlington called Living Hope. 20 years ago, my wife and I met in that community. She has a background in same-sex attraction herself. We loved doing that, and then I got busy with a career in architecture, raising a family, having kids. But when something is in your heart that just is not going to go away.
Yes.
We definitely know that. Very well.
We can relate.
In the exact same way.
Yeah.
Yes.
My wife is like, I always knew you're going to get back to this, Jason.
Yes.
And so it has been so fun to do that.
It's amazing.
So this is what you do full time now?
No, it's not.
Still
Okay,
architect
still
by
architect?
day and then mentor
Wow.
coach by night.
Yes,
That's
yes.
incredible.
We'll see how long that goes.
Yeah.
But my
love
wife's
it.
been very supportive.
One thing that I love about your ministry and something that we completely resonate with is that we have found with same-sex attraction that so often it disqualifies guys from thinking ahead of their future, of like they can't see beyond that thing. And something that I have loved just following your ministry and looking at what you're doing is how you call guys into the more that's ahead of them, like look ahead and see where your God's taking you. And that's something that we really feel, like that we want to help guys with, and girls, of like, stop letting the past dictate what God has for you in the future, and believe for the more. And I love that about how it feels like that's a big staple of your ministry, of just like, hey, let's look forward, let's look ahead, and actually
find your freedom so you can find your place in God's story and fully engage in it.
Which is
That's
why
awesome.
we feel like we are in line so much with you. So I want to go 1 second. I just want to hear, it's amazing what you're doing. We love your ministry. Everyone should go and look at what you're doing. We'll talk about all the ways to connect with you about that later. But I want to hear a little bit about your story. You just kind of threw in there, my wife has a background in same-sex attraction too. And so talk about, I want to know a little bit about your story and why you're passionate about this. And if you could help us understand.
In my life, my voice has gotten silenced in so many ways. And that started with abuse when I was a child by the hands of my father. And I always thought that maybe it was better if I stood out on the sidelines and let everybody else live life. And maybe I didn't have a supporting role. I didn't always have a say in what was happening to me. My emotions weren't okay. My dreams, I felt I had to play small. I was a pastor's kid, and I thought that role was something that really defined me, so much so that I felt lost inside of it sometimes, or I felt lost in needing to be whatever other people thought I needed to be. And I would just guess at that. I didn't actually know, what it is. Sometimes I thought I needed to be, but I thought that was my job, was to see what it is that you needed from me so that the other person could be okay, so that I could regulate their emotions, so that I could make everything fine. And in the meantime, I kind of got lost in life. And as I moved forward into, high school and college, just trying to be that version of myself that I believed I had to be in order to be enough. I would see other men on their journey of life, and I compared my journey to theirs. Maybe they were off doing some big, amazing things with their life, and I thought, well, I'm just trying to survive here.
Yeah,
totally.
I'm just trying to believe that I have what it takes and that I'm a man, and to get through the next day when I'm feeling very anxious and very afraid in life. And what I've learned over time is that, man, I have to celebrate the journey that I'm on. And my journey started out kind of handicapped because I didn't have that person saying, you've got what it takes. Let me be the wind in your sails. Just go and do what God has designed you to do. All of us are uniquely designed to do just an amazing thing. We all have a specific voice that God has given us. And mine was muffled over time. So, I had difficulty, growing up and seeing other guys and saying, how do I need to walk, talk, dress? How does my hair need to be?
Well, you mastered that.
You mastered that. Congrats.
Yeah, I did have a story. It was in middle school where I pulled out my blow dryer at a new school. We moved to a different district, and somebody was like, why do you have a blow dryer? This is after PE when we were required to change.
You think this just naturally happens?
This is not what you do here at this
You're
school.
like, wait till you see the dry shampoo. It's gonna be crazy.
Oh my gosh.
So I was all obsessed about creating this image around me. And in the midst of it, I felt so lost. And I know so many people can relate to that. That's not just a same-sex attraction thing. So if you're listening and you're saying, man, that's me. I've tried to be what I believed I had to be as the perfect Christian, or as the glue that holds the family together,
right.
or, as the fighter, the life of the party, whatever it is. If you feel that maybe you're just not seen, that's a good sign that you're letting something else, define you and live out in front of you. When I really considered the fact that I didn't know how to do life. And when I got to the end of college, I ended up having a nervous breakdown, because you can only have a smile pasted onto your face, for so long. And it just became too much. It became too much to constantly be asking, who do you need me to be?
Yeah.
Because
I feel that.
Yeah, I was in a creative profession, architecture, and there's no right answer in architecture. I remember in school just being paralyzed sometime looking at the blank sheet of paper.
Wow.
Because who am I to make a mark on there? What do you need me to draw? What do you need me to create? And there was this part of me that was very creative, loved making things, had big ideas, but every time I would go to express myself, whether it was by speaking, by drawing, by writing, I had this block that came. It just felt like somebody was, putting tape over my mouth. And to be able to move through that took a lot of healing work, a lot of time to do that, to be able to say, you've got something to say. And over time, architecture and the design process became something that I loved. I loved when we didn't have a right answer right away. I loved the collaboration. And that was a real big sign of healing for me.
Wow.
And I was able to move into graduate school and into the profession to see that all of a sudden I really enjoyed bringing ideas to the table.
Wow.
And over time, I really got a lot more stable in my career, in my identity as who I was as a man of God, and also a lot more open-handed with life. I was scared. I was scared to consider marriage. I was scared to think that I could be enough for a woman. Am I man enough? Do I have what it takes, for her? Am I going to be able to provide for her needs and desires, in all kinds of ways? And I wanted control. I wanted certainty so bad in life. And I remember thinking to myself, well, I'm just not going to get married. Just close the door on that. And that will allow me to just feel safe. I wanted to feel safe so bad. I always felt like I was being tossed by the waves of life, and that was going to give me some certainty. But I had a check in my spirit with that, and I heard God say, that's not your decision to make. And it was really powerful to be able to keep an open hand with that and to see something more happen over time.
Wow.
My dad was in the Navy. He often lived, I believe, behind a mask of the uniform. I know he did feel so small in life. He felt like his attractions were something that screamed that he deserved to be separate, that he didn't belong, that people weren't better off when he was around. If they only knew, that he had those attractions. And so,
because he lived like closeted basically in his desires and
it's so hard, and especially in that generation, you really feel for him.
Right.
Oh my gosh. And your mom and him, they ended up getting a divorce. Is that right?
They did.
Okay.
So he was in the military for 4 years, kind of wore that uniform. Then he wore the role of pastor of a small church. And it was really a challenge for him, I believe, to be vulnerable, to feel like he could be known when he had to play a lot of those significant roles. And when he just felt like over time, he just couldn't be fully himself, somehow that all of who he was couldn't be fully expressed because of who he believed he needed to be. And he decided that it was important for him. He had this brilliant idea that going into the gay lifestyle would somehow unlock more of the fulfilling part of being uniquely known, and he wouldn't have to hide anymore. People started to know about his attractions. Prior to that, he had to leave being a pastor because of some sexual sin. And
had he wrestled through it with your mom at all by that point? Like, had he confessed to her, or had he been found out, or how did that go?
Yeah, it's a long, sordid story. And my mom was just so caring about him. There were many times that I think she considered leaving, but she felt trapped. She didn't know what to do. She didn't have her own career and job. So, for her, she prayed, wished that he would be faithful, even though she knew of infidelity in various ways. So, she had her own journey through that.
Yes.
And I wanted her to feel okay. But
Totally.
again, that wasn't my place to do that. When we had to change to go to that different school district talked about, where I brought their blow dryer, that was such a hard time in our lives. Changed roles was the biggest one. I was no longer the pastor's kid. I was like a nobody.
And you were young. Like, how old were you when
I
this
was
happening?
between 8th and 9th grade.
Okay.
Wow.
So
Such a tough time anyway.
entering into high school, trying to figure out, okay, who am I?
Totally.
What's my
This is happening with my
place
family.
in the world? So hard not to take on that shame of what my father did. The fact that, we had to totally step down from being the pastor's family.
Right.
That was really a challenge. And when I talk about the storms of life, and I mentioned my dad being in the Navy, the nautical theme was really big for him. And we had all kinds of nautical knickknacks and stuff around. But I believed that the waves of life were bigger than me. I believed that the things that were happening to my family, the changes, my attractions, the shame, that it was going to knock me over. I believed that I was in this little rowboat. God gave me just that picture one time of being in a little rowboat, and I thought all the waves had to subside. I need to get this figured out. I needed to get our family fixed. I needed to be the man that was full of testosterone and confidence and gregarious and had the muscles so that I wouldn't have to be afraid anymore. But, God gave me the picture one time of being in a huge ship, like one of the model ships that my dad had on the wall in his office. And I could hold in my hands and just be reminded of the fact that, man, with God, with Christ, it doesn't matter how big the waves are in life. And that's something that I'm grateful that I have, that I wish my dad had believed inherently.
Yeah.
But he felt tossed against the circumstances of life, his desires, his feelings of not being seen. And then I think the lies of the enemy, like I said, the lies of the culture, churches that were starting to affirm this. And so he said, okay, I'm going to try this out and go into the lifestyle. He and my mom talked about that and agreed to separate and have the divorce. And it was really hard to see that happen. When my family fell apart in that way, it was crushing.
Yeah.
Wow.
I loved my dad, no matter what he decided to do, but I felt abandoned.
Yes.
My sister and I were like, what is going on here? I mean, our family was not perfect, as you know it, but the marriage of 37 years of your parents, and then all that going away because the people around you, Satan was having a voice that was so loud to say, this is going to be an amazing thing.
Yes.
You got to try this out.
Right.
And over time, it didn't give him what he wanted. He had a partner, sweet little guy, but over time, he just felt alone again.
Oh.
It's like this loneliness, this feeling of separateness never went away. The gay community can be so inviting and so welcoming. And it's one of the beautiful things, honestly, that they have many times.
Right.
And the church doesn't
Totally.
always have that.
Right. Exactly.
So, but again, it just kind of kept going back to, I'm alone. There's not somebody out there to help me. And he got to a place in life where life just was too hard. Nobody wants to take their life, but you do that because living is harder than not living. when I think about the fact that my dad decided that, he decided that taking his life just seemed like the right thing to do. I really feel for him.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody wants to be in that place when they are in constant anxiety, panic attacks, believing that, they're on their own. As much as I tried to help him and his boyfriend and our family to say, we've got you, we're there with you, to feel that sense of, whether it's shame just for things that he had done in life. I don't quite know exactly what was in his head. Fear that he had just made mistakes that disqualified him from receiving help and, assistance and all that from people that loved him. No, that's got to be so hard.
Gosh. Yes. And your kindness, one thing that I've noticed when you talk about him and like your family, your kindness and empathy towards him, when you have mentioned that he was your abuser, sexual abuser, and then he did a lot that hurt your family through. But like one thing just to note that we have both talked, Jordan and I've talked about with your story, it's just your kindness and ability to love him and somehow do that. I would guess it would just because of Jesus, like you're able to like forgive and show up and be there for him and love him in this crazy thing that is a pretty wild story that's happening while you are then battling your own same-sex desires while you're watching this deterioration of somebody who is your strong father figure, and then you were figuring out like, what does this look like? Can you talk, how is that why you chose the path you did, you think? Or I know you've thought about it, but like how is that? Would you say that like, I probably am fighting it because I saw what it did to my dad, or was it something? Was that the reason?
We were choosing our path at the same time. So
interesting.
It wasn't after his path of, living a gay lifestyle didn't work out. He was wrestling with whether to go that direction, as I was 30 years old trying to figure out if marriage was a possibility for me.
Wow.
Like
were y'all talking about it at all? Like, did he know with you?
He and I, we both knew that we, shared attractions. And I'd confronted him about the abuse that had a lot of support, behind that. And he owned up to it. And this is just my story. I mean, everybody has a different place they're at with their abuser. And I respect everybody's feelings.
It's also different
in all of it.
Nuance,
And for me, it was important for me to keep the relationship with him. To do that, I felt like I needed to confront him about everything. And that was a priority for me and something I chose and something I believe that God was going to use to bring me closer to God. When we were here on earth to know Christ more and to make him known. And for me, I really felt like inviting Christ to give me that forgiveness for God was going to be a beautiful thing. It wasn't something I was able to generate, and I didn't force at all.
How old were you when you did step into that confrontation with him?
I was probably 27.
Okay.
Towards the end of my master's degree. And then it was a couple of years, after that he went into the lifestyle. And then I got into a ministry, like I said, Living Hope in Arlington, where...
Were you married at that time?
No. So I met my wife there.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. There was a lot of fun.
Mention that piece.
I know.
It's just good.
Like I said, I didn't even want to kiss a girl. It just seemed... And I had dated in college and some in high school, and it just seemed forced. And,
did you know in high school, did you experience those attractions in high school?
I remember my senior year having that feeling of electricity coming through my body at a party when this guy turned and said that he wanted to kiss me. And all of a sudden I felt something I hadn't felt before, just in my body. And I knew that I was more interested in the guys, but part, I think, of the effect of the abuse, at least for me, is that I shut down that part of my body, just the sexual desire feeling, and didn't even think about it. So, that experience, I didn't even kiss him. I just had that feeling and I freaked out.
Yeah.
And I don't know what I did the rest of the night at that party, but it wasn't with him. And then in college, having similar experiences, but more frequently and bigger, it became such that I couldn't ignore the attractions anymore. And I thought, I need help. But more so, I thought something is wrong with me. This is bad. I need to fix this. And that wasn't really helpful because I was putting energy towards it rather than I was staring at it rather than staring at the face of God, and that just changes.
That's such a good word.
So good.
Yes, that is such a good word for anyone who is struggling. I do feel like it's so easy to just be so obsessed with whatever our struggle is. And I think in this struggle in particular, it becomes very easy to just get so hung up and locked in on, like you've talked about, like my attractions or this temptations or whatever. And instead of just looking up and looking to the Lord. And so that's such a good word.
It's so good. So then, you mentioned your wife though, like y'all meet through
Living Hope.
Through Living Hope, you meet your wife, and she's experiencing like same-sex desires as well. Mm-hmm. And then what about it that y'all were like, oh, here's your same-sex desires and my same-sex desires. Let's start dating, or like how do you get there?
Yeah, that's a great story.
I gave up the expectation of having a wife, and I just said, God, whatever you want. I tell you, that right there opened up so much.
Giving up the expectation of it.
And some of the guys I coach, when they're thinking about going on a date with a woman for the first time or trying to date again, I like to ask them, when you consider a woman or going on a date, what do you feel in your body? And for me, I felt tense. I thought, this is going to be scary. I need to wonder, what is she going to think about me when I tell her that I'm attracted to guys? Do I do this on date number 3 or 4 or 5? Mm-hmm. Can I handle this? Am I man enough? So those are some of the things I work on with
Absolutely.
guys, because it's not about necessarily same-sex attractions. It's about all the noise that comes into our mind when I associate a woman or a date with fear and anxiety and apprehension. Well, it's no wonder that it doesn't seem like a great idea.
Oh my gosh.
It's no wonder I can't be
open
at
ease.
You're so in your head.
Yes,
yeah.
You're so in your head.
So it was fun to just be there at that group, and it was very focused on Christ. It was pivoting, from staring at our attractions to staring at Christ, not ignoring them, but learning from them and growing to a place where all of a sudden I did have my head turn when she walked into the room one day, and she had always sat on the back row when we had a large group time. I didn't really notice her much. She had baggy t-shirt on primarily. Her hair was not really done up, and she didn't want to be seen. She never felt like she had a voice, and she didn't express that with the way that she looked.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden one day she had just gotten her hair totally redone, came from work all dressed up, and there was something about her that I noticed, for the first time. And apparently she had been paying attention to me. And
check, that guy uses a blow dryer. I like this guy.
That's what did it.
And I thought, man, I think I need to ask her out before somebody else does. I remember
amazing.
that thought coming through my head. And
you were
when you
probably
thought
surprised.
That,
I was
totally,
surprised.
were you like, oh my gosh, wow. Like, did you pay attention to that?
Yes.
That's amazing.
I thought, I need to ask her out before somebody else does. I've never thought that before.
Yeah.
When I thought, okay, yeah, maybe a good idea to date a girl, or, I think she's cute. This might be nice. But just to have that level of excitement, anticipation. Again, I didn't ask for that, but it was a lot of fun. I think that was a gift from God. And I just wanted to know her more. I was curious about her. She kind of was mysterious to me, where girls had not been mysterious before. It was always the guys that were mysterious. That was a good sign as well, that all of a sudden I wanted to know her more. I did a blog post one time it's called, Why Do I Want to Kiss a Girl Now? Because I was really curious, like, why do I like kissing girls now? When I say girls, I just my wife. But I think it was because I just wanted to know her without expectation. It's like, hey, let's go talk together at the TGI Fridays after group and sit next to each other and get to know each other a little bit. And then I finally asked her out, and we chatted and talked and did different things. And one time we were sitting in a Sonic drive-through, we were parked there, and I thought maybe I'll kiss her. And it's honestly just a way to kind of know her more. It just seemed like a natural next step.
And you're at Sonic, so
it's not quite
I mean,
oh
come
my
on.
gosh, it's so good.
Yeah, it didn't go well. She said, Jason, let me teach you how to do this.
Amazing.
That's so great.
That's so gracious and kind, you
Yeah,
know?
it is so gracious
Just to
and
be
kind.
honest,
Yeah.
to be clear.
That was fun. And then we just kept dating. And
How long did y'all date for?
I guess maybe 4 to 6 months, and then got engaged.
Nice.
The engagement was.
I thought you were going to say 4 to 6 years because we dated 10 years. I was like,
Oh,
okay,
I know
like,
y'all's
guys,
story.
this is how it works. You're like 4 to 6 months. Well, okay, great. You
That's
figured it out
amazing.
quick.
Yeah. Well, we were both in our 30. I think she was.
So were
30,
we,
I was
Jason.
33.
So were we, Jason.
Okay. All right.
10
all
years
right.
later. Okay. Anyway, y'all figured it out in 4 to 6 months, and then y'all got married.
And I thought we need to maybe have a longer engagement because we both have some stuff,
Yeah.
Sure.
in our life. And she's like, oh, but we're going to get married anyway, so we should just do it.
That's incredible.
So
Wow.
our engagement was, I think, 4 months.
Okay.
Rather than the 6 months that I envisioned.
How
And
long have y'all been married now?
Almost 15 years. Yeah. So we'll
Awesome.
celebrate that
That's awesome. Okay.
on May 13th.
That's amazing.
Awesome. And
Coming
then
up.
how many kids?
3 kids.
Okay.
2 girls and a boy, 11, 9, and 6.
Awesome.
So
That's
cool.
unbelievable.
And
What a
marriage,
story.
of course, has not been perfect by
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
means. Some of the fears that I had about going into marriage happened. I'm not going to lie. And it wasn't the sexual fears of not working in the bedroom that ended up being just fine, but of being overpowered by a woman was really the big fear that I had.
Wow.
And
That's so interesting. And
it happened.
Yeah.
It did. Early in marriage, she got scared. She was so close to her friends. Her friends were her biggest support. They all lived together. So they were in Fort Worth. I was way over in Dallas.
Yeah, it's a long
her
way
friends like, you're dating a Dallas guy,
Yeah.
And so I brought her to Dallas with me. One of her friends got married to a guy, moved to Oklahoma. The other one of the other 2 close friends became a missionary and went to China. So she kind of lost a lot of her support. And all of a sudden I had to be a lot more than a husband to her. I had to be the best friend, the husband. And I just wasn't able to do that. And
Yeah.
the more she pushed towards me, wanting something from me, the more I, backed away and kind of shut down. And then she would push and I would move away. And that was something that we had to work through. We ended up getting some counseling with that, but kind of moving, beyond that. And honestly, kids was one thing that was great for us because we had something that was a shared joy in our life that we were able to just, get excited about together and move forward.
That's so amazing. What I love about y'all's story is that it's, I love that both of y'all were not looking for each other and you were more focused on Jesus and just trying to get your eyes fixed on him. And then you found each other that way.
Yeah.
And it just is such a great example of when everyone's thinking the attractions are too strong or the desires and all the focus is on that. And then, I mean, that was so for us, it's just in our last breakup, we had to spend 2.5 years apart to get our eyes on Jesus. And then it was so clear to us that we were supposed to be together, but we really had to get to that place more than just all the little small things and fights and are we meant to be together? But it was get our eyes on Jesus. This is the reason why that we are here. What is his point for my life and all that stuff that y'all were doing. And then you're here we are together in the most unlikely of situations to be we're going to meet our spouse of a different sex in this group and then get married and have this beautiful life and now have this ministry. And I think it goes without saying, but I will say it, that I think the generational sin is real, and the breaking those ties is something that we believe strongly in. And I just love how you and your family are doing that right now in a way. And your ministry, it's just, it really makes me love God more when I see guys like you. And I'm this is when Jesus is in the equation and you're trusting him, how it changes the course of the generations to come. Your kids will not know the father that you had, and though you had to forgive and you've been amazing with that, you're just rewriting it. And now you're ministering and mentoring and leading all of these guys in that, and it's just a beautiful way to see Jesus at work. So just applaud you. And I know you're not here for applause, but I just am really grateful to have someone to look to like you that is doing it really well. So great job. I know that you don't maybe see all your flaws.
I think yes, doing it really well is true. also doing it messy, doing it scared, doing it anyway.
Totally.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Doing it
Yes.
anyway.
Doing it anyway.
I would love to hear you talk about, because so many of our people that listen to our podcast are in a similar situation. Maybe they're, I think a lot of the people that listen, we've learned, are single and wondering about marriage, maybe for the first time realizing that it could be a possibility for them. And we have a lot of listeners who are married, and either married to someone who is same-sex attracted, or otherwise. But I think for those people specifically, I would love to hear from you, because people here, have kind of heard our rhythms and how we do things, but how you and your wife, whatever you're comfortable sharing, just some of y'all's rhythms with your temptations in particular, with the same-sex attraction piece, how you found accountability, and even how you kind of discuss it together. What does that look like for y'all as you kind of journeyed through into like almost 15 years of marriage?
Mm-hmm. For her, she wants to know everything.
Okay.
Not just when I mess up, but like when I'm struggling emotionally. For me, when an attraction comes up, it's most often from a place of insecurity. So she's like, Jason, man, if you're feeling overwhelmed by life, if you're feeling scared, man, I want you to come to me in that. I want you to tell me. And man, that's beautiful to me. I had this experience a couple years ago where I had a relapse in sexual sin, and I was going to go to tell my accountability group about it. I just shared with her immediately the next day, and then we had our weekly meeting a couple days after that. And it was really hard for her to hear when I shared with her, and it's something we processed through, and just to work with other people through that. But she knew it was going to be also hard for me to go and share that to a group of guys. And she said, it was at 6:30 in the morning when the group met. It's like, Jason, come back to the house afterwards before you head to work if you need a hug. And I tell you what, that's one of the most beautiful things that anybody has ever said to me.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
So she's an amazing, special woman. And I'll share when I have an attraction to somebody. I'll be honest with her about that, and just kind of set some boundaries in place with it.
Nice.
But she is very trusting, less in me and more in God. And that's something that is a special gift that allows me to do what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And having her with me in that is great. And she shares her struggles with me. It's not the same always for women as it is for guys. So, she wouldn't say that she has a lot of attractions towards women now. I mean, God's done a real big transformation in her heart. But when she shares her emotion, when she shares her insecurities, that's a way that we can grow together. When Satan is tempting either one of us by just an image that may come to mind, or a thought that's intrusive that Satan wants us to lock onto, whether it's something same-sex related, or just a lie that we're believing about ourselves or about what God says about us. It's really powerful to be able to share that with each other.
That's amazing.
That's incredible. I love that. I'm going to turn the table a little bit, and thank you for sharing all that stuff. It's amazing to know where you're coming from. But so just for listeners to know, we've been texting about this episode with you briefly, but like you had sent a text over to me and said, like, what if we, talk about this certain thing? And I had gotten, I was like, oh, that's amazing. Like, I would love to hit on that. Forgot about that because that was a couple weeks ago. And then we were at this event. Jordan and I led worship at this event this past weekend. It was a phenomenal event. And one of the leaders of the event, like, he is just a spiritual giant. I mean, he's like a incredible man who a lot of people know. And we're at the event. He's like, reaching out to all the band. Like, I had a band with us. He's getting all their phone numbers, or like wants all their phone numbers. He's just an amazing man. And
he's very much a father figure. Kind of represent. He's I think in his 70s, and basically offering himself, as a resource, or kind of a parental person, honestly, to most of us.
He is. But I found myself the entire event moving away from him, and like I'm not going to get near this guy. Like, so we get home from the event, and Jordan and I were unpacking it last night, and I was just like, she's like, "What was happening in your mind?" Like during, I could tell something was going on. We were just talking about there's just a lot to process, but I was like, I don't know, but like when I get around a man like that, I tend to remove myself. Like, oh, like, well, if he wouldn't want to know me. And so Jordan she was like, do you feel that it's like father stuff, or like, it's like, we were just unpacking that. And we were talking about it. I was crying. I'm just like, I don't know. It's just, I think these are just wounds that I have of like, no one wants to really know me or go deep with me. But then I opened up your text and I was like, okay, tomorrow we're with Jason. And he had mentioned maybe, and I'm reading it, and it's about not feeling like anyone would want to know you, or like the
finding
your voice, or feeling like you have anything good to say. And I was like, well, this is going to be great. Like, so.
So basically, can you counsel
Yes, so it's your turn to counsel
in real
me
time on this episode.
In real time, yeah. No, but I saw that and I thought that was just kind of God. I was like, like I will be as vulnerable as I can be, but like that was real time for me this weekend. I didn't feel like I should be known or loved, and I found myself moving away from it. I feel like I've done a lot of work in my life, and I feel like I've really struggled or fought that. But I still find myself with friends and like men who I really respect, like being like, oh, I'm moving away from, I don't feel like they want to know me. So I want to talk about that. And I want to talk about things that you have felt in that and the way that you have learned to move through that. And in any helpful practical tips, you'll not only be helping our listeners, you'll be helping me in real time. Okay. But I would love just to kind of talk about when you sent that, how did that, come to be? What were you thinking?
There are certain core beliefs that I have, and one of them is people are always better off when I'm around. People are always better off when Jeff is around. People are always better off when Jordan is around. Everybody listening. And I truly believe that. It doesn't matter if you have all of your crap together or not. It doesn't matter if you believe that you have something to offer or not. I mean, we are all created in God's image. And as image bearers, man, people are blessed by that.
Man, that is powerful.
And part of who we are as image bearers are people that use our voice. I mean, I think about God creating the universe, speaking it into existence, that idea of creation, that creative God, and he's implanted that in us as well. Now, I know that man would love to hear what you have to say because it is something that is going to be inspired, by God. If you're attuning to God and allowing yourself to be that conduit, I think that God gets excited when he considers, I made Jordan this way. I put this combination of interest and passion in her. And I believe that when she is attuned to me and to the Spirit, this is going to come out of her, and nobody else would be able to say this the way that she's saying it or making the impact that it's going to have. And I have to remind myself and tell myself those things that are true, because I think we all have times that we doubt that we have something to offer. But when I say, I'm going to walk into this room, and if God's going to put something on my heart and give me the opportunity to say it, I'm going to believe that I am the person to say it. I don't need to let somebody else raise their hand, to speak. I think that's so powerful to use our voice, because that's part of creating. That's an active process.
Wow.
It's taking the voice from our attractions, from the story we're telling ourselves about things, from the lies that we've believed about ourselves, and from what Satan has said. And it's saying, no, this is what's true about me. I'm not a people pleaser. I'm a man of conviction. I don't need other people's approval. That's one thing just over this last weekend that I was able to put words to. And when I can talk to myself instead of listening to myself, or instead of listening to the lies of Satan that says, you don't have what it takes, you need to just keep quiet, your place is on the sidelines, and say, no, and actively tell myself the things that are true about who I am and let my actions come out of that, then that makes all the difference. And the more we do that, the more that lie gets broken down, and it becomes harder to believe that my voice doesn't count. The more that you step out and, talk with the guy you're intimidated by, and I've been intimidated by so many. When Beckett Cook, sent me an email and invited me to be on the podcast, I was telling my friend, I'm kind of a small fry compared to him, but said yes. You said yes to what God's calling you to. I was actually going to ask you guys about something, very good, by the way, because you're both worship leaders, and that's been a beautiful ministry for so many years. I would love to hear when you first started that and felt like God was putting that calling on your life and you began stepping out in it. How is that compared to what you're doing now? Because you're using your voice now in a different way, but it's also new, and it's also something that you're saying yes to God to in stepping out. Is there a parallel, comparison between the two, or did you see some tie-ins or similarities?
That's really good.
Do you want to go first or me?
Yeah, because I think that we probably have really different views of
I would agree.
Experiences of this. When I felt that calling, it was when I was 18. So I had wanted to be a singer all my life, but I was attending this conference, a passion conference as a senior in high school. And I felt like the Lord was really clear. Like, this is actually how I want you to use your voice, when I was in this worship moment at the passion conference. And I felt like, I was like, okay. So from there forward, I was like, I'm going to be a worship leader. Like, that's just what I'm going to do. And I wasn't intimidated by that thought. And I think it's because I was 18. I was like, I didn't know better than to think like I couldn't do that, even though it's funny because there weren't like very many women doing it at the time also. So I would attribute a lot of it to my parents as well, who like just made us believe we could do whatever we wanted. I mean, they were just like, you want to be a baseball player? Awesome. Go do it. You want to be a singer? Great. And so I think it was interesting because I think because it was so young, that was like that naive kind of spirit was like really helpful. But then doing this as a 40-something-year-old woman, I'm like that, like has learned enough of life and lived a lot of things that have and as someone who would formerly call myself a people pleaser, not anymore. But like just that
not on your good days.
Right. I just, all these ways you can fail. And so I think it was way more intimidating to step out in this way of like, oh gosh, well, now what will they think? What will the Christians say? What will the world say? And so it was a lot harder to kind of get to that point. So that's my answer.
Yeah, I think when I stepped out I left a corporate job. I was working at Accenture as a corporate guy. When I left that at 25, I felt like it was very clear that the Lord wanted me to lead worship full time and like write music and move in that direction. So I did it, but and as a 25-year-old, like if you're listening in your 20s, you have a lot that you're carrying. But now in my 40s, I look back and go, okay, that was an easier step at 25 with no wife, no kids. And to step out what felt like a massive leap of faith, to leave a very well-paying job, to step into ministry where like I remember looking at my taxes that year, it was like making six figures down to $0 the next year as you trusted God, So it was a lot of like learning in that at 25 to step out into what I felt called to do. Now in my 40s, being able to talk about, as we launched Open Spaces didn't feel like something we had a choice to do. It felt like it was a must for us if we were going to continue in ministry in the way that we felt the value of ministry is vulnerability and authenticity. We did not feel like we could be vulnerable or authentic with people if we were leading people in worship, standing on stages, meanwhile watching people that are dying and struggling in sexual sin in front of us while we carry this miraculous God story, but we're not talking about it. So when we launched a year ago, it was truly like more of at 25, leading worship was a calling, and I believe this was a new calling that the Lord was He's done so much. So it's like, okay, now tell your story, and we believe that change happens with by the blood of the Lamb and the word of your testimony. So we're going to share and hope that this helps others. But it was another massive leap of faith that literally we were like, do we have a great life? Do we need to blow it up? Like, we don't have to do this, but we had to do this.
Yeah.
So I think it was just another level of trust for us of stepping into it. And now we have totally seen the kindness of God on the other side of it.
Yeah.
To see what God's doing in it and the people He's bringing into our world. So it's been a crazy thing for us.
That is so cool.
Yes.
So cool.
It's wild.
What I love about doing things like that is it makes lies so much harder to believe. When I think, I don't got this. I can't do this. All of a sudden you've done it, through the power of Christ and for the glory of God. And you're like, I guess God does have me. He's not distant, just watching my life play out. And that's so cool when the truth feels more true. And this gives me more energy for life. As we use our voice, it's harder to believe that we don't have one.
Man.
When we are seeing an impact of that, it's harder to believe that we can't make an impact.
Yes.
And that just builds upon itself.
Yes.
It creates momentum. And I love having a front row seat to seeing God do the impossible in people's lives.
Yes.
And that may be that they get married, or maybe it's just allowing the truth to feel more true.
That's awesome.
For allowing them to say, man, I do have something that God wants to speak through me.
That's so
awesome.
Good.
I can relate to so much to what you were saying about the way you felt growing up with feeling like you were trying to be what you thought everybody else wanted you to be. I mean, I feel like that's how I felt growing up, and trying to understand like what does this person need from me, or what does my family need from me, and so I just relate so much to that, and feel like I've had a similar journey in finding my own voice, and so I appreciate that, and I think so many people will find themselves in that in one way or another, of just like wrestling through that. But I appreciate and love, and I'm going to keep considering this, that whole, the more you believe the truth, the easier it is to believe what's true. And when you see God come through, it's like, oh yeah, it's harder to believe the lies now, because I've seen what He does when I make a faith step, and I've seen what He does when He puts a calling and you step in obedience and He affirms it. And so I love that. I mean, I'm gonna think about that for a while. And I would love for you also to talk about even the moment you decided to create this ministry, and what led to that. Why did you decide, okay, now's the time, I've got to do this?
Like I said, I was tired of the story that people were telling themselves to be the thing that was keeping them from building for the kingdom of God. Somebody asked me actually recently, Jason, what's your goal for your coaching clients? And I think maybe he was assuming it would be, trying to keep them from sinning. I don't know. But it's so that they don't bury their talents in the sand. That's what I'm convicted about.
Wow.
Because we're here to help build the kingdom
awesome.
of God. I have this resource called ssaquiz.com, and it's not a measure of, whether you have attractions or not. It's a measure of how much you're allowing your attractions to stifle your voice, whether it's by just saying that you don't have the influence maybe that God says that you have. Maybe you're allowing your energy to go towards fighting the attractions, or obsessing about what people are thinking about you, or how you need to show up as a man. Maybe you're not stepping out in courage because you believe that, if I do that and then, people reject me, then it just proves what I've always believed.
What I've thought about myself.
All of those things. And so that's what I'm passionate about. And I wanted to really make an impact with the rest of my life. And I'm, it's a little bit of a middle-aged thing.
Yeah, totally.
So I don't know.
Absolutely.
Y'all have that at all, but
because you realize like life is short, and
right.
like what am I going to be known for
the rest of this?
Like what's kingdom impact?
I've loved designing schools. I've created some incredible designs, whether it's an arts magnet or a career technology center or an early education center. That's the type of architecture I design. But it's great to do that and then see these kids come in on the first day of school and just be amazed by the space that they've been able to inhabit. And I wanted to create space for men to inhabit, where they feel like they can be all that they can be. As men and everybody, we are made to create, like I mentioned, and that can be, creating a vision, creating space, creating an opportunity for people to step into what they didn't think was available to them or possible, and to kind of own their identity in Christ,
right?
And be all that they can be. The world is not going to tell them who they are, but they can really embrace who they are. And so I just want more of that. I don't want guys to feel like they have to sit life out,
right?
Or
just muster through, like just kind of like, okay, just fight the attraction and then die. Like, no, there's so much more to your life than that. Yes.
Yeah. And that's what I'm convicted about.
Can you share a story or two with us, just like since you've started this and since you've started coaching, and you mentioned men in their 70s, what are some of the stories that have kept you pushing through and being so committed to this?
One would be my friend Lair McCrary. He was in one of my group coaching courses, and he was actually the first guest that I had on my Own Your Identity podcast. And he was sharing a moment when he was in a foyer at his church and sharing that he was going to be going on the Beckett show. He had not told many people at all, and he was going to just out himself for the first time.
Wow.
He's sharing this with a woman that he was close friends with and knew his story. Then her husband came and walked over to them, and he didn't know his story. The husband didn't know it, and he was this man's man, hunter, whatever, fisherman.
Yes,
and he was intimidated by. Okay, and he's like, I think I want to change the topic of the conversation because I don't think I want him knowing. And he just sensed this level of embarrassment inside of himself, and because of the work that we had done in coaching, he was able to just pause in that moment to acknowledge the emotion that he was having, like the sensation it was creating in his body, just being constricted, and being more aware of the thoughts that he was having in his head. Because all that happened so quickly. So that's just one piece of my coaching, is to increase the greater awareness of all those things that are running through our head. Just like that.
Yes.
So we can start to change the association we're having with things. And he decided to say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and invite this guy into the conversation. Wow. And so for him, it was really powerful for him to have that awareness of what was going on.
And not shy back,
the embarrassment,
and feel known,
right?
And continue to walk in confidence.
To see that that's something he could observe.
Yeah.
I don't have to believe that this fear is going to tell me who I am.
Yeah.
The attractions aren't going to tell me who I am, but this is just an experience that's part of my life, and whatever he is going to respond with doesn't mean anything about me.
Yes.
That's huge.
Awesome.
That was a great story.
It's
awesome. Incredible. It's so incredible. We could keep talking for a long time, so I know we need to wrap. I hesitate whether I really wanted to ask about, to briefly describe the 4 S's that you talk about.
Oh, yeah.
At least talk about that, and then I'm going to ask you where people can find your stuff. But I don't want to end this without, this is such a good practical thing for guys and girls to hear. So I would love for you, in your coaching, you talk about 4 S's, and if you could just describe that for 1 second before we have to wrap.
I like to take what is really complex and simplify it a little bit. I mean, same-sex attraction is complex, don't get me wrong. So many things you could dive into that maybe contributed to it, all the things. But in the moment, I just want to be able to kind of move forward and, not be overwhelmed. So my 4 S's are, first is separateness. I believe, to simplify things, that the biggest driver of same-sex attraction is a belief and feeling of separateness. That's been my experience. I believe that was, for my dad and people I know, separate from our voice, from our belief of where we fit in with other men, separate from maybe our bodies, the understanding that we have what it takes to make it in the world. Just seeing everything, maybe from the outside. looking in. And that describes more people than just those that experience same-sex attraction. But I do feel like that's something that helps me when I think about it. So there's just a lot of depth of work that can be done there. And so a lot of work with same-sex attraction is about uncovering all those areas of separateness, whether, it occurred as a result of abuse, all of those things. And that's a lot of deep work that can happen. And that's really powerful. But often what tripped me up most was the sensation, the second S, that would happen in the moment. Like I said, that feeling of electricity that went through my body. That's what led to so much of the struggle that I had, is what do I do with this feeling? So the sensation is, I think, something in itself. The emotional, romantic draw, the crush, those feelings, there's that intensity that can come up. And then the third S is sin. So, moving in a direction aligned with the attractions, giving into lust that may present itself. That is sin, and kind of call that out without shame, without, letting that tell us something different than our identity in Christ. If we've put our love and trust in him and put our faith in him, he calls us anew, and he calls us beloved son. What we do as sin is still wrong and sinful, but the story, which is the fourth S, of what we're telling ourselves about how God sees us when we sin, that is huge. Does God say, why don't you just sit in the corner for a while? I kind of want to go hang out with some other people for a bit, and I'll come back to you in a couple of weeks, see how you're doing, and we can talk. Or the story about the sensation that may have come up in my body. Wow, because this happened so intensely, then that means, well, obviously something is wrong with me. Maybe I guess I'm gay, whatever that means, and I should just go in that direction. I mean, this feels so big and so true. Or the story about maybe some of the belief of separateness from other guys, the not measuring up, all it. I mean, the stuff that was traumatic that happened in life. That means that I'm just broken, that people are worse off if they really get to know me, because there's something deep down that is going to infect them and hurt them. So what I do is I start with the story, and that's the thing I'm most passionate about, because I can control the narrative. I can control what I'm allowing things to mean. I just invite God to tell me what's true. His voice is the only one that really matters. So some of that is just clearing away the lies and the junk, so that I can hear his voice more clearly. And then, looking at, going to God in repentance, confession to other people, godly sorrow, like all those beautiful things that move us forward, that are separate than shame, which, at least in my experience, has caused me to stay stuck or to go backwards, to turn from God and staring at my sin rather than staring at the face of God. And then understanding that there are ways to reduce the intensity of our same-sex attraction, I believe. I don't get too stuck on that. It kind of comes and goes. Those, and then be able to touch on some of those things that are deeper wounds that we can look at and learn from, and actually allow us to fuel us forward by saying, because I went through all this hard stuff in life, it doesn't mean that I am broken, have less to offer. It means that I'm pretty resilient.
Yes.
That God is faithful.
Yes.
That maybe if I've been able to get to where God has taken me, what else is possible in life? That's so powerful. And God's words, it all reminds me how important it is to know the truth of God. When there are all these different lies and stories out there,
Right.
how awesome it is to know that I can go to the one that says it is finished, the one that says you are my beloved son, the one that says I came to give you life and life abundant.
Yes.
And that just makes the gospel so much more powerful. And it inspires me to want to share that gospel and that message to other people. When I really allow myself to know God more deeply, not despite my attractions, but through them, through taking them to God and letting him just transform how I see them, and to invite other people into it. I love your community episodes that you had.
Oh, thanks.
And then to allow that message to inspire others, not to, tighten their bootstraps, but to turn their face to God and to be excited about him being excited for what's next in their life.
So
That's
awesome.
So
I love
helpful.
all the work that you've done to get there. And so thank you for all of that. Where will people be able to find all of your stuff? Tell everybody where to go to learn more about your ministry.
OwnYourIdentityNow.com gives you links to the podcast, to blog posts, and to information on coaching, whether it's one-on-one or group coaching.
Awesome.
The podcast is named Own Your Identity. It's on YouTube, Apple Podcast, and if you want to email me, you can do that. It's at hello@jasonmellard.com. Love to chat with anybody.
It's awesome. Amazing.
Thank you so much, Jason. This has been so refreshing and helpful, and just so grateful that you would join us and share what you've learned. And you've done so much work. I mean, you are obviously a very healthy person. And so I mean, just the first time I heard your story on Beckett's podcast, you could just tell, like, the way you talk about your story, the way you talk about your dad, the way you talk about your mom, like, you've done the hard work. And so I'm so grateful that you would share that with us and inspire our listeners towards the same. So thank you very much.
Yes, you're living out the testimony of everything that we're talking about. And it's awesome when you can look at someone like you, and what Jordan said, you're healthy in the way that I know you're not perfect, but you're healthy, and you're working through in a way that we admire, that we are just behind what you're doing.
Yes, absolutely.
And encourage you to keep going, because it's worth it and it's amazing, and you've blessed us through it, and we're just really, really grateful. And to steal your own words to our listeners, we would say, yeah, you got this because God's got you. So that's your tagline. I love that, and it's amazing. So thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you.
How amazing was that?
So
we
good.
are so grateful to Jason for joining us today. And we know that you are going to want to keep in touch or stay tuned for what he has to offer, because it is incredibly helpful.
Yeah, go visit his website, ownyouridentitynow.com. He's amazing. You can find all of his resources. He's really good at creating resources and practical ways to help. So you should visit that. Also, we just want to say thank you to those who have subscribed. We just hit 1,000 subscribers on Open Spaces.
Thanks, guys.
That's all you. So if you haven't subscribed, you still can. That's the great thing.
That's
it's still available. So go subscribe. Open Spaces Podcast. If you're here, just why not do that right now?
Yeah,
Anyway,
go ahead.
Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you next time on Open Spaces.